Hello and welcome to episode 1377 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Thursday, February 20th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I actually went to bed before midnight last night, which is kind of
Hey,
crazy for me.
we both did. Look at that. So we're both ready, rested and ready to dive into the hot corner. We're going to get right in. We usually do
Yeah.
some of the informal talk, but we are on a time crunch today because I'm talking with Eric Long and hanging after this to do our big prospect deep dive episode. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to come out because obviously Justin and I are putting this out Thursday. We have a Friday episode, so maybe over the weekend we can get you that prospect episode there. But obviously the fire hose is on, folks. Baseball is here. We did have just one small move, but it has a little bit of impact. Again, we're deep leaguers, so we're always keyed in on moves like this. And Justin Turner has found a landing spot. We knew he would, right? He can roll out of bed and hit 270 and hit 259 last year. But you get my point. He's just a solid quality hitter. He gets $6 million to go to the Cubs. Now, first thing I think people were thinking was like, oh no, Matt Shaw. I don't think that this devastatingly hurts him. They're not going to put Turner at third all that often. You know who it might sting a little bit is our boy Michael Bush. I think that they're going to be in more of a platoon situation there. And then again, maybe you see an occasional spotting. I mean, I'm looking right now to see 6 games at third last year, 7 the year before for Turner. So again, I don't think he's a big threat for third. I think Shaw's oblique injury is
Yeah.
a bigger issue to be worried about than anything that Turner's going to do. So do not, and I even included it in my redraft prospect article that came out today about Shaw, and someone in the comments was like, hey, I don't think Turner's going to really block him. I agree. I just knew if I didn't include Turner, somebody would say, well, what about Turner being there? So he might get an occasional game there, but the oblique is a bit bigger concern. Let's focus on Turner as like a short side platoon and then spotting in against righties on occasion. Does he have 15 team value this year, Justin Turner, with the Cubs?
Uh, Maybe very deep. I think this really is just a depth piece, but I mean, who knows when Nico Horner's back?
Yep.
Uh, we don't know at this point, like how long Matt Shaw might be out for. Because, like, if Matt Shaw is, out for 4 to 6 weeks, is he making this team?
I don't know, definitely not. I will say this:
So,
they've downplayed it. They said the quote from
yeah.
on actually today from Craig Counsell,
Oh,
according to Matty Lee of the Chicago Sun-Times, is that he's doing great and has resumed hitting in the cage and throwing. So as it stands
okay.
right
Well,
now, this
sounds
is
like that's nothing. Yeah.
it's looking good, right? But you know how
Hmm.
obliques can be. They can flare up. One wrong swing and it's right back to square one with it. So you got to be careful there a little bit. Now, if Shaw was going to be out for a substantial period of time, which again, we don't think so right now, do you think Turner would start to get more third base at that point?
He could.
Because I
Um,
mean, I know you don't want him there for weeks at a time if you're the Cubs, but I guess he could fill in for like the first 2 or 3 weeks if something like that came to fruition. I'm still bullish on Shaw. So if you
I
liked
am too.
him, I think you still stick with that because the news is good right now. And then could he play? Oh my God, if you don't want him at third, do you really want him at second? Would he be the guy? I guess he played more second, none last year, but 10 games in 2023. Would Turner be the guy at second if Nico's out for a bit, or do you
Yeah, I
move
would think.
Shaw to second and Turner to third, or does it even matter? It would put Turner in the lineup, is what we're saying, if Horner's out. But his news has been good too.
I think. I think you probably um, don't want to keep moving Shaw, right? Like
Right.
you've kind of committed to him at third base, or like hey, you're going to play third base. Let's not have you learn. Otherwise, then they're definitely sending him down, right? I mean,
Right.
if he's got a, then I mean, well, I guess he played second base in the minors, I think. So
He
maybe,
has played multiple positions here. Let me get that
yeah.
fully there for Shaw. I don't want to speculate. Yeah, played second, third, and short last year. 19 second, 42 third, 19 short. So,
Okay.
a true infield utility guy for Shaw. So they've got him geared up to be wherever he needs to be. Remember, his stock was rising, excuse me, because of Nico Horner's injury, but Craig Counsell actually said very similar things about him, that he's quote unquote in a great spot and not going to miss much time, if at all. Now, that was 10 days ago on Horner, whereas the Shaw news was very recent. So both guys are looking really good early on. So let's think of Turner more as that short side platoon, sharing time with our boy Michael Bush. He's a post 500 pick in DCs. I will say he is elevating since he got drafted. As you know, when you click on the page and you see those dots, we don't know what type of league that is. So he could be going, 411, 443, 448, 475. These could be because they're not DCs and they're not that deep.
Mhm.
But even if he's moving up in DCs, are you okay with a late 400s pick on Turner?
I think that's fine. I mean, I don't know if
That
that's
seems
what
good to
I'm
me.
gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna actually spend that, but
Yeah, and I know you're
I
not doing
can.
DCs, right?
Yeah, but like I mean, that's in a regular league, in a regular fab league. That's back into your draft. So I mean, there's no real
Very late.
cost attached.
Yeah, like so. Again, if you really like Turner, I would say stay keyed in on the news here. And if anything's up with Shaw and Horner and they take a turn for the worse, that would elevate Turner a little bit. But he is still 40. I think he's going to be fine, but he's probably going to be on 4 or 5 different teams during the year in fab leagues when they face 4 lefties or when he gets hot for a couple weeks. It's going to be stuff like that. I don't know that he's somebody that you're just going to have all year and in the lineup with Justin Turner.
Yeah.
All right, let's revisit something that we discussed, because in classic sleeper in the bust fashion, news broke on something immediately after our show that basically contradicted us, or at least would have given us a different consideration. And that was with the Jordan Lawler situation, as Geraldo Perdomo got an extension for a nice little 4-year deal. Again, almost immediately after the show. And if you don't remember last episode, it was late in the shortstop preview there. We both had some positive things to say about Lawler, especially long term, but we also both like Perdomo. So we were a little torn, like, hey, he's going to be the guy right now, but Lawler could push. How does this 4-year, $45 million extension for Perdomo change that aspect for you with regards to Lawler specifically? And then we'll get to Perdomo.
I don't know if it changes my perspective per se. I think that
Not even for the short term? Because you were saying that Lawler could break camp and take the role. I
I,
don't think that's
I
possible.
I still think that's possible. I mean, it would mean Perdomo moves to more of a utility infielder role,
Right.
which would be totally fine. He could DH, right? I mean, they've got Pavin Smith, but they've never actually given
How
Pavin
dare
Smith.
how
I know.
absolute
I actually like
dare
Pavin Smith
you?
this year because he's extremely cheap, and it looked like he was going to have that role. But if I think Lawler has, like, if Lawler's ready to go, like they just say you're ready to go, and we're going to put Perdomo wherever it makes sense, right?
Maybe
Like,
Lawler DHs, right? Because he's had some injury issues.
yeah.
Maybe he could take some of the DH
So
spots at that point.
I
I
don't.
hope our
I don't.
boy Dusty Wagner's listening, because I've been a long time Pavin Smith fan, and he's clowned me for it for
Yeah,
years,
I
which
do.
he's been right all the way
Yeah,
through until last year. 60 games with a 142 WRC plus. It only took me 9 years to be right, guys. But anyway, I do kind of like him. I don't know. Here's the thing for me. I don't necessarily think Lawler's ready, and because
and he
of
may
that,
not be.
and a lot of it isn't really his own fault. Injuries have just
Yeah.
prevented him from playing. Like, he just hasn't really gotten the time. He got 12 games last year, and then another handful in the Dominican Winter League. He got 105 the year before that, but even that is a shortened season. So I think that they can take their time with him. Oh, excuse me, it was 23 total games in the minors last year for Lawler. I think they can take their time, and unless he rips spring apart with like a 400 plus average and 6 homers or something, I think he goes down and he's the first guy up, because, and that's a great piece to have in their back pocket, which I did
Yeah.
say the other day too. So I think this would make me more confident in drafting Perdomo if you like him. It's not going to be a high price point. I don't think the price is going to jump. It's
No.
a 457 price point right now. I don't think this contract is going to send him through the roof. He's a solid, boring, capable guy, and Lawler's going to have to wait a little bit for me. So I would still look at Lawler as a 4.5, 5 month type guy.
Yeah. I think
And
it's a fair.
and spring could change that. We'll keep tabs on it. All right, let's get into the hot corner, and we're going to go through the first couple tiers here today. And we got 3 lined up. We got a couple guys that we discussed at first. Maybe you revisit something on Vlad Jr., but it would, we can reiterate our Jake Berger, your Jake Berger love, my Jake Berger like. You were very high on him. But let's start with the top tier. Jose Ramirez, Vlad Jr., Rafael Devers, and Austin Riley. Just a reminder, if anybody's jumping in now and hasn't heard the other episodes, we do cast a wide net here. We're basically using Yahoo eligibility, which is just 5 games. You're not going to have Vlad Jr. at third base in most leagues. He played just 12 games there last year, so you're going to need a 5 or 10 game eligibility situation to get him there. But we can, we're putting those guys in there just because we know not everyone just plays NFBC or 20 game eligibility. But let's start with the king, J-Ram. How do we feel, man? This guy freaking rules. I'm so bummed that last game got rained out last year to give him a chance to go, wasn't it 40 doubles and 40 homers? He would have had to get one of each in that game. He went 39-39 with 41 steals. So he could have gone 40-40-40 if he'd have hit a homer and a double in that final game. How crazy would that have been? Instead, he goes 39-39-41 with 118 ribs, 279 average, and 114 runs. What's he do for an encore here, man? I mean, he's a bona fide superstar. Are you still fully in on J-Ram as a top 5 pick at age 32?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think if you have the third pick, you're taking J-Ram.
I got no beef with that.
Like, I understand Judge goes ahead of him. I understand Ellie goes ahead of him, and Gunnar sometimes. And I've even seen, guys like Juan Soto and Kyle Tucker go ahead of him. But not for me. I think for me, he's the third best player in fantasy. You just get every single stat. I mean, last year was absolutely insane. You're not necessarily projecting last year to happen again, but like 30-30, 100-100, like
right.
Plus a 280 batting average. Like he's about as safe as you can get.
He's
in fantasy.
So amazing at baseball. I love J-Ram, one of my absolute favorite players in all of baseball. And yeah, I got, like I said, I got absolutely zero beef with what you're spitting here about drafting him up there. And I'm not super enamored with third base too. So I think that's kind of a deciding factor there when you're talking about some of these other guys that go up there, like outfielder Aaron Judge. I haven't really assessed outfield yet to say how deep or shallow it is, but there's definitely early ones that I still like that I can get my first outfielder and feel comfortable with. But there's not a ton of third basemen up here that I love. In fact, if you're going by ADP, Ramirez is out on an island. He's got a 5 ADP, and then you jump down to Jazz Chisholm Jr. at 23, and Austin Riley at 30, and Devers 34. And obviously, we're going to get to those guys. So yeah, I think you're right, and I will fully co-sign that if you're looking at J-Ram at pick 3, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Now, if you are in a Yahoo League or something with lower eligibility, you can get Vlad Jr., and maybe that changes the calculus a bit. We discussed him at first base, where he's actually the king. He's also got a situation there where he's it's not the same split, but he's the only first rounder, and then you get into Harper and Freeman and Olsen. Anything about this contract stuff giving you any different feelings on Vlad Jr.? That's really the only thing that's changed since we last talked about him over at first base. What do you think of that?
No, I mean, I think he just is about as safe as can be.
I got to be honest, I never thought they were going to get the deal done anyway.
I didn't either. Well, no, not so much as Toronto. It's like the first report said they were $100 million apart. Like, you don't, like $100 million, like it's like 20, 30 million. I get, like, okay, that over the course of a 10-year deal. We can
maneuver around that, but 100, we're not in the same ballpark at that point.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the same game anymore. So,
right.
I don't have an issue with that. Like, I did a draft for Henry Wilson over the weekend, and I had the 15-16 turn, and I took Skeens Vlad.
That is a beautiful turn.
Yeah.
I went Tatis Vlad in the Tout Wars draft and hold. I'm in 2 draft and holds right now. The one you and I were talking about before we started the show here, where I went Lindor Skubal, and then the Tout Wars one where I went Tatis Jr. Vlad Jr. So I went double Nepo baby there, and I feel great about it. So yeah, I agree. There's nothing that's really changed for me. I don't think this is going to cause issues or anything. And like I said, I was already operating as though he wasn't going to get the deal done anyway. It's just going to be a standard walk here. So let's get to Devers, because speaking of chatter and things that are maybe hanging over, let's start with that BS real quick. And I don't say BS to like dog him out. I don't really have a problem with him saying I'm a third baseman. That's where I want to play. That's fine. You can express your desire. At the end of the day, he has to play where they tell him. And so if they trade Casas, move him over to first, and Bregman over to third, I would then hope that he wouldn't cause any issues. But I didn't have a problem with anything that he said in that press conference. Is that changing anything for you with Devers and the storm that's kicking up, or is that just early spring? We're thirsty for anything.
I think it's early spring, and I don't really care that much. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I get where he's coming from,
Right?
but like,
and that's fine.
He doesn't fill out the lineup card, like
exactly. So you got to play where they put you, and so it's like I see his side. I back him being able to say that, but if they put 1B next to your name or DH next to your name, you better not go walk back in the clubhouse or anything. Then I would have a critique for him, but I don't have a critique with him saying that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, especially because he signed through 2033. It's not like he's playing for a contract anytime soon. Like, and no one is paying you in 2033 to play third base. So
exactly.
Like, I really don't understand why someone hasn't told him, like, hey, listen, your future isn't at third base anyways. Your next contract's not going to be at third base.
Maybe they have, and so he's gripping on to the last gasp of third base, right? Maybe he's saying, like, let me get this last year, and then you guys can start moving me along. I don't know. That's pure speculation, but I'm just saying, like, maybe it's something like that. But yeah, I don't put too much stock into it. So let's talk about him as a player then. Rafael Devers, one of the more bankable bats in the game. All of a sudden, this Red Sox lineup is remarkably deep and excellent. They're going to be putting two guys almost certainly in the minors. I don't think Christian Campbell nor Roman Anthony is going to break camp. They could storm the castle. I especially think Ceddanne Rafaela needs to be looking over his shoulder. But they're going to have two monster prospects just waiting in the wings. And the lineup that they do have as is, Duran, Devers, Bregman, Casas, Yoshida, Story, Abreu, Connor Wong, Ceddanne Rafaela is pretty damn good too. What's Devers looking like this year for you?
I'm a little afraid of Devers.
Is that right? Okay.
So, I mean, he dealt with shoulder issues last year. It was clear it had an effect on him. He had a over 5% jump in his strikeout rate, and that was kind of borne out between having the worst zone contact number in all of baseball and a swing strike rate that went up almost 2%. So, I mean, he was still very good when he was on the field. Hit 272, had his power, RBIs and runs and everything, right? But I'm just a little bit afraid of the shoulder, and it's enough where I go, okay, I'm going to go with Austin Riley.
And I don't have a problem with that pivot. I'm not, completely pushing away from your fears. I do still like Devers, and if I quote unquote got stuck with him, like if Riley went before him and I was looking for third base, I could still punch the button on Devers at pick 34. But I think that's an okay thing to go for Riley over him.
There's just too many guys. I mean, it's too early in the draft to have a concern over something, and not
feel super confident when you're pushing that button. Now, let me ask you this, because Riley's already going ahead of him. He's 30 versus 34. So they go together, basically. Machado goes 5 picks later. 39.
I'm taking Machado.
Okay. And I figured you would. I just wanted to get the confirmation on that.
I'm taking Machado. I'm taking Burns or Clase or...
Well, let's get into Riley here. And then the next tier, both those guys, Machado and Jazz Chisholm, are up there too, and we'll talk about them. So you like Riley. You like him more than Devers. I never really felt any grave concerns for Riley or Olsen last year with the Braves when things weren't going well, right? They had such a weird fluky season where, everyone was getting injured left and right. Riley himself only played 110 games, but he still went 1956 with a 115 OPS plus. It wasn't his best season, but I don't carry any concerns coming into this year. It doesn't sound like you do either.
Yeah, no, I don't have any concerns at all.
Back to 30, 90, 280 type? Okay.
I mean, as long as he's healthy coming in the spring, I haven't drafted him, and I'm going to be real honest. I have not drafted any of these kind of second round third basemen.
Do you have J-Ram anywhere yet?
I don't. I think I do have J-Ram, and I have no problem taking J-Ram as early as he goes. But I'm always going for something else here. I just always am. So whether it's a starting pitcher or an outfielder that's power and speed, I'm a Merrill goes right here. Like, I just
love Merrill.
Yeah, so I very rarely think I'm going to end up with any of these guys, but I don't have any concerns on Riley.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either. Like I said, at no point last year, Olson took a while to really get going. He did play a buck 62, but it wasn't, the perfect follow up to the 54 homer season. And like I said, Riley missed some time and he was a little bit off pace, but I think he gets right back to the 30, 90, 275, 280 type season. Ho hum excellence and on a great team because Atlanta I think is going to be good. Tier two here, and again, you can follow along. We're using the tiers that have been set up by our writers. So Lucas Kelly does third base. I should have mentioned that at the outset. And he's got Manny Machado and Jazz Chisholm together. Now, you already said that you would take Machado over Devers because they're close and you don't like that shoulder concern. What about Machado in a vacuum here? Again, you're not taking the third base at this spot here, as you just mentioned, but are you still fully confident in the 32-year-old Machado to just keep punching the clock on these high quality, if almost boring at this point, seasons because he is so bankable?
I mean, he's literally like the easiest person you can write in a stat line for.
I know. I mean, it's a metronome. It's
Yeah,
there every year. The health is usually on
it,
point. He did miss a little bit of time in 2023 with 138 games, and he still went 30-90.
yeah, it's like 28 to 32 home runs, 270 batting average, good RBI, like, and like especially in your deeper leagues, like I love that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
because like I know I can pencil that in. I have a little bit of concerns on Devers. I have, I mean, Riley missed time with injury last year and was kind of a down year. Like, if you want about as safe as you can get, Machado is that dude.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add, and we're not going deep on some of these stars because they're stars and they've been doing it for years. And he's just so bankable. That's still a high quality team. I know there was some concerns when they were talking about moving a big contract or two, which they still haven't done, by the way. In fact, they've added another one in Pavetta. People were thinking like, oh, are they going to tear this down? Should we start fading Padres? No, not at all. I have got no concerns about this team. I expect them to be a competitor. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for them to thwart the Dodgers, but I expect them to fully be in the playoff mix. Let's talk Jazz because he's actually number two to Ramirez. All these other guys, Riley, Devers, Machado, they're going in the 30s. Jazz with third base outfield eligibility is going 23. How do we feel about him with a full year in New York? He showed out when he first got there. Are you excited by what he can do now with a full year there?
I mean, I am in some ways, but I'm also very nervous about his past injury history. Last year was the first year he reached 600 plate appearances, or even
Yep.
really came close to 600 plate appearances.
Right.
And now you're paying for it. And not to say you weren't paying a ridiculous price coming into last year, because you were, but
It never really cratered, right? Because he's so
yeah,
special that people were
I
all
was
there was always
it was
somebody in
still
on
fourth
Jazz.
round. Yeah, he was
Yep.
still you're still paying fourth round for a guy who was like averaging 250 to 300 plate appearances a year.
Only
Um,
2 years. He had 507 back in 21. Get off his back a little bit. But your
yeah,
point is well taken on the injuries, but he did show the 621 last year. So at least you've seen it, right? Like that
yeah,
there has to be some added confidence. There you go. He went 24-40 infield outfield eligibility, which we've been talking about throughout these previews, how much we love that. It seems like you're a little skittish on the price, but where are you on the
yeah.
production?
The production's amazing, like on a per plate appearance basis. Like, and we saw it, right? 24-40 last year, 256.
Filthy.
It's unreal. And like he, has his third base eligibility now. He's probably gonna, I think he's picking up second, right?
Yes.
In outfield. He'll pick up second. Like, there's a lot to like if you could turn off the injuries. For me, the injury history is too grand, and last year doesn't wipe everything away from me. So like,
Okay.
I'm not gonna be going there at a second round price, but I don't have a problem with people who do.
I think that's fair and consistent with where you've been. The one time that Seager did it did not completely change your mind. So again, that is a consistent through line that you've had, that if a guy has a long history of missing time, the 1 year is not just going to wipe the slate clean for you, and that's all right. But again, he is up here this high because he went out he went out and showed out with the 24-40, and he's going to be triple eligible by adding that second base, and that's going to be really spicy because that also gives you the corner and mid, and just all that flexibility is very nice. I think I'm with you. I'm not necessarily taking him, but I don't look at people who are taking Jazz Chisholm in the early 20s and say, "Oh, that's a mistake. How could you do that?" I totally get it. And I've been there with certain guys. Like, he's just not my dude, but when it is my dude, I'm willing to go to the mat for them and have done that in the past. And that's just the type of guy that Jazz is. All right, let's get into the third tier here because we got four really interesting guys with Mark Vientos, Junior Caminero, Alex Bregman, and Jake Berger. We did discuss Berger, but you can continue to gush over him at the end here if you'd like, because I know you're super, super geeked on him. But let's start with Vientos, who I know people thought was probably going to add first base coming into the year. Not that that would have totally changed his dynamic. I imagine people probably would have left him at third all year anyway. But obviously with the re-signing of Pete, he will continue to reside over at third base. He is just a masher. 25 years old. He showed what he can do. 27 homers in 111 games, 266, 322, 516 slash. Did come with a 30% K rate and 7% walk rate, though. That's not a good combo. Is there some risk here? Do you feel comfortable with Vientos as a top 100 pick? He's at pick 98, which I don't think is egregious, but it's a wide range. His believers got him up at 73. His detractors have him down at 118. So that's a wide range there for Vientos. Where do you come out with him? You're muted. Classic Justin.
I'm very, yeah.
Once an episode.
Yeah.
Watch out for the soda. Where's the Diet
Oh,
Pepsi?
I have it really far away from me. This
Okay.
time. I learned my lesson. So right here, baby.
Where are you at on Vientos here?
I'm very torn on Vientos. I mean, I think he's a power source. I think he's going to mash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that you can kind of take to the bank. The problem is the underlying zone contact skills are pretty damn scary. We're talking about a guy who's like well under 80% zone contact.
Yeah.
And he swings and misses a lot. And that means like, this is like very Joey Gallo-ish in a lot of ways where like, hey, you're going to get your power, and they seem committed to letting him play every day. But there's a lot of risk in that batting average. I think anyone who thinks that there's a realistic opportunity for him to hit 266 again is wrong.
I tend to think so too.
The XBA was 246 last year. The BABIP was 324. He's a career 298 BABIP guy, and a lot of the projection systems, including probably my favorite projection system in terms of offensive numbers, which is the Bat X, has a 289 BABIP. I think he could hit like 230, and that's something you just have to factor in to the potential projections on him. So I'm probably not going to be drafting a lot of Mark Vientos just because I don't like taking on that batting average kind of sinkhole early on in a draft. But I understand people who do, because he will deliver a lot of power. Like if he hits 40 plus bombs this year, I'm not going to be surprised.
No, I'm definitely not going to be surprised on that front if Vientos shows that kind of power, but I totally agree with all of your concerns about the bat otherwise. And, if you're a projections person, you're not in here because any of the projections that you look at, he's not going to be anywhere near this ADP. In fact, looking at ATC, which is the composite of a bunch of projections, he's the 80th hitter. And yet he's going as the 97th player. And it is 100% because of that batting average risk that he brings. You invoke the name Joey Gallo because of the low average and great power, but at least Gallo controlled the plate to get on base a ton and keep the runs churning. Vientos doesn't do that. So he's got an OBP that could sink below 300 if things go really south. It was only 322 last year in what was, by all accounts, a breakout year. It was an excellent season. So yeah, this is a classic heart versus head for me because I love him as a player. I root for him. I'm very excited about what he can do for that Mets team. You're not going to catch me paying 97 overall price, though. I can't do it with Vientos. I can do it with this guy, though. I'm much more in on Junior Caminero. Now, he's more expensive. He's 77, so boosted up 20 picks. But I'm a believer in this guy. I think he's also got the crazy power, and I think he's ready to take a monstrous step forward. Now, he also doesn't walk, but he doesn't strike out anywhere near as much. 22% K rate, 6% walk rate for Junior Caminero in his 43-game sample last year. He's going to be 21. I'm very excited about him. Obviously, the market is too. I have not landed on him yet, but I'm not averse to it. Where do you come out with Junior Caminero going at pick 77?
Man, this is one that I think is going to get out of hand from some people.
If it isn't already, by the way.
Yeah, because and it's from that one video of him in the Venezuelan league or something like that this winter where he hit a walk-off homer It was amazing looking. And I mean, Caminero has unreal upside. So like if he pops off this year, I'm not going to be surprised. We're also talking about a 21-year-old that has looked, like he can handle himself at the major league level, but he has struggled with his launch angle. He had a 7-degree launch angle last year. Hit the ball on the ground a ton, 48%. There's a lot of power in that bat, but I don't know if it's ready to be unlocked. I really don't. Now, this is a great opportunity, because they're going to be playing at St. Pete. Or is it St. Pete? Or
yeah, St. Pete, which is a Yankees replica. Yeah. Now, he's a right-hander, so it's not going to be, taking advantage of the right field porch the way you can in Yankee Stadium. But he does have oppo power, and it's still going to be good.
It's still better than the Trop was.
100%.
So, and it'll be outdoors. So, I do think that there is a ton of upside here, and I'm not opposed to drafting him where he's going, because I want to say I'm going to double check what my projections have on him.
While you're looking that up, I will say again, while I haven't gotten Caminero, I am more willing to pay the 77 price point than I am Vientos' 97 price point. Yeah. So even though they're 20 picks apart, give me Caminero there, but I'm with you that this is going to rise more. And then it is going to get to a point where it is a little, it prices me out. His min right now for Caminero, at least in the last month, is 52. And that starts to get a little dicey for me. I got to see maybe a little bit more before I can go quite that high. But the excitement is there. And if he pops some homers in spring, the way that he did with that Dominican Winter League Game 7 walk-off, then watch out, because the price is going to go even higher. Like he's one of this year's big helium guys, Junior Caminero is. What do you got for projections?
I have 25 home runs, 250 batting average.
Okay. And that's not bad. That's a solid projection.
Not bad.
There,
and I could see it be more more. I think it could be 35 if everything. I mean, dude, Rock gets the ball. Absolutely. Yep. If he's coming in and he's elevating in spring, I may just start going, all right, now I'm paying the price, because I think that I think there is limited or limitless upside on a guy like Caminero. But I also think there's a realistic chance that we don't see that upside this year. We see it in the future. And I don't know that I want to pay for it before we see it.
I think that's completely fair. But again, similar to what I said with Jazz, if Caminero's your guy and you're paying for it right now, I get it. I've been there. I've had guys, Albies is a guy that before he broke out, we were very keen on and we were pushing him up. Eno was big on him. There's been plenty of other guys where it's I know he hasn't completely done it yet, but I want to be there if he does. So I'm going to pay the premium. And it didn't always work. Sometimes I'd come up short that year and I'm like, well, I'll rebuy next year. Royce Lewis, where are you at? I'm going to get you again this year, and we'll talk about him in another episode here, probably the next one. But let's talk Bregman.
Spoiler alert, I like Royce Lewis a lot.
Oh, let's go. Do you have him for more than 99 games? Can he get to triple digits? Here's hoping. Let's talk some more Bregman. I know we talked about him when the signing happened. Obviously, some of the dust has settled now. Third baseman who's going to add second base eligibility.
Potentially.
Well, yeah, I guess that is not guaranteed. Like I said earlier, if they make a Casas move or a Yoshida move Devers there, Bregman back to third, Christian Campbell in the second, bada bing, bada boom, there you go. So yeah, it's not a guarantee. If you're drafting Bregman, do not say, "Oh, I got my second baseman." I'm really glad you said that, because that shit is not guaranteed yet. And if you're doing a draft right now under the auspices of thinking I have my second baseman, you could be gravely disappointed. Now, his price point is at $150, and I'm looking right now to see where it's been going up to. It's firmly inside the top 100 since the signing. So let me see if I can shorten this time frame here to get a better accurate read on Bregman's ADP in these draft champions. And it's already moved up to 125. In the last 10 days, or in the last 5 days here, which is only 3 drafts, mind you, but still it's on the rise. And then that means that in the RotoWire onlines and things like that, that's where he's really starting to go within the top 100 sometimes. Are you paying the elevated price point on Bregman? I cannot remember what we said about the price rising when we talked about the move, but are you paying the new price on Breg?
Probably not. Not with Berger right there.
Your boy, I know.
Yeah, I probably am not going to pay. Well, here's the thing. I think this price is elevated because it's signed with the Red Sox. I think it will deflate back as pitching rises in March. So
Right, that's fair.
I think when that happens, I probably would be okay paying that price. But I don't. Bregman is a guy that I like mostly because he is usually undervalued in drafts, and he is
Absolutely.
not at this moment.
Yep, I completely agree with that. And with that not being the case here, it does undercut my interest in him. By the way, I'm looking at Lucas's tiers. We are going to get to Royce Lewis next episode, but wow, a lot lower than I expected. I will say that because I'm actually adding, since we have a little bit of time here and we're not going to have to say much about Berger, I'm adding a few guys here from tier 4 that I think we can at least start tier 4 if we can't get all the way through it here. But no, I'm with you. I've always loved Bregman because I've always found him undervalued. Now that he goes to this great team and everyone's getting really excited, the price is rising. If it does move down, like you said, main event season, he could be one of the guys who comes back down for the pitching to move up because guys have to come down, and he makes a lot of sense to come down.
He's always the guy in auctions that I feel like people aren't willing to spend the money on.
Yeah.
And like I end up getting him for, $11-12 when I have a $16 value on him. So like for me, it's going to be about the value because he doesn't do anything in particularly like special. He's just kind of
no carrying category.
Yeah, he's a really good like accumulator type of player. And so that gets overlooked as other prices start skyrocketing. And so, yeah, I'll take advantage if that's the case, but he's not got someone I've like penciled in like, oh, I'm leaving my draft with Bregman.
I'm sure we discussed this with Bregman when he signed, but I didn't go back and listen, so pardon me for the repeat potentially here. Where did you come out on the walk rate situation? It dropped from 13 to 7%, so basically in half. And again, we had to have talked about it. I just don't remember what we said. Do you feel comfortable that it's going to bounce back? Because that used to be his carrying tool, which is good for OBP leagues, but only really manifests in runs otherwise. Do you think it gets back to the firm double digits that he's been in his entire career? Because this looks like an anomaly right now, but are you concerned with the plate patience dwindling last year for Bregman?
It's interesting because he definitely was attacked more in the zone. We've talked about like zone percentage being something like, hey, 1 or 2% can actually be a pretty big jump. And he had an almost 4% jump in zone rate. So I'm wondering if pitchers saw something where they're like, hey, he's being too patient. And so they tried to attack him there more. I think it probably will even itself out. Maybe it doesn't come all the way back to where we've seen over the course of Bregman's career, where he's not a 12% walk guy. But I think double digits is probably where I would project him. And I believe is where I do have him projected.
Yeah, me too. Again, it's just been such a staple of his game that I would really be surprised if it was just gone in 1 year at such a precipitous drop too. It really does feel like an anomaly, and I'm eager to see him get back to that because he is now, he's with this club here, as he was with Houston, a great lineup where it can really just pay such dividends. If he gets back into the 350s, 360s with his OBP, then I think triple-digit runs come back into the picture. He only had 79 last year in 145 games, but 103 and 161 games the year before that for Bregman. By the way, I said I was going to add some tier 4 guys. I didn't realize it was 310, and I got to go at 315. Oh. So let's finish up with Berger. I know you love him. We did discuss him at first base. You can go get the deep dive there. We talked about how he's moving lineups and all of that. But give your pitch one more time, just because if anyone didn't listen to the first base, you're all in. In fact, if you want to pull up your projections on him, I'm curious to hear them again.
Yeah, I have, let's see, Berger. I have Berger projected for, let's see.
And Berger goes at 120. I'll just add while you're looking that up. He's got first, third eligibility. Bregman goes at 115 right now, like I said, and it's moving up. But you love Berger's price point, too, at 120. I know that.
Yeah, I've got him for 26 home runs, 83 RBIs, a 250 batting average. I just think he is going to feast in the middle of that Texas lineup. Yeah. It's a much better park for him to be hitting. And I mean, every park is pretty much a much better park and a much better team to be hitting for than the Marlins. So I just love the fit, first, third eligible. I love those kind of guys that are multi-positional eligible. So like, to me, Berger is just, and the upside of Berger is huge. Like there is 40 home runs in that bat at some point. I don't know if it's going to be, this year necessarily, or if it'll ever actually happen, but he's got that kind of power. And there's
Agreed.
no reason why he's not playing every day in Texas, just hitting bombs left and right.
Yeah, great pitch. I'm in. I do agree. He is an absolute monster with the power. He took a little while to get going. If you're wondering, like, why is this guy 28? We've only seen 2 seasons. Dude was ravaged by injuries, and it was really sad because there was exciting talent. He's a former number 11 overall pick, and he just couldn't stay healthy. Finally did in 23, broke out, kept it going last year in that wretched Miami lineup. Now goes to Texas. By the way, we got him penciled in right now for the 8 spot in Texas because it's deep there. I think he could rise up big time. I don't need to tell everyone how I feel about Adolis Garcia. It only took me 3 years to be right. And then Josh Young, while I do like him, there's no reason Berger can't hit 5th in this lineup or even 4th. They got Peterson penciled in right there against righties, which that makes sense. Semien, Seager, Langford, Peterson. But then isn't that 5 spot nice and cozy there for Berger if he's doing what you think he can do?
I think so. And we'll see kind of as lineups start to come out here as spring training is gonna get going here really, really soon.
I was gonna say in a few minutes that game should be starting.
Right. Like I cannot wait. Like this is gonna. I miss baseball.
Oh, it already
so
has
much.
started. Holy crap!
Oh,
it's
okay.
6-3.
There we go.
Yeah, Cubs
wow.
just dropped a 6 Berger in the 3rd inning.
Well, then I need to get off the pod with you and go watch some baseball.
That's no problem. I'm gonna go talk to Eric Longenhagen about prospects and get all that situated. We will be back tomorrow on Friday discussing more third basemen. Justin, have a good one. Talk to you tomorrow.
Baseball.